Hey guys, I am here doing another unhaul, trying to reclaim some of the space in my closet because I don't actually put books on back on my shelf that I generally know pretty quickly if I'm not going to keep a book, and as such, I don't put them back on my shelf. I put them in my closet. My local used bookstore is awesome and I really like them. However, they don't have a ton of people that work there at any given point in time, so they can't take a ton of books all at once. I kind of have to limit it to 12 to 15. So I'm just going to keep rolling on and doing these unhauls probably on a monthly basis until like there aren't quite so many books in my closet. But without further ado, let's just jump right in. And start with a book you have seen on my channel before, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I really actually liked the writing style of this book, but I didn't really like much of anything else. I was yelling at the book. I decided to save my sanity and just DNF it around page 50. And so the rule is if I DNF it, I should not keep it. There is no reason for me to keep it. So it is definitely going to be going. After that is another DNF, and that is Scarlet by A.C. Goggin. I looked it up, how to pronounce her last name. But and also the second book in that series, Lady Thief. I've actually read both of these before. I didn't remember anything, so I was like, oh, I should just reread them. And I started with Scarlet, and I don't even know that I made it 50 pages. I just hated everything about it. It's supposed to be a Robin Hood retelling, with our main character being a female Will Scarlet, and there were so many problems with it. If you're interested in what my problems with these books were, I am going to go ahead and link down some of the DNF videos that I did, because that's mostly where I explain my issues with this and Court of Thorns and Roses and some of the other books that are going to come up. After that, I do have Allison Hewitt is Trapped by Madeline Rue. It looks like this. It is a zombie apocalypse novel, and I hated our main character. There was no reason that, I mean, she was a little bit of an inconsistent character. I didn't like her. There were like no other there were no other characters to kind of hold on to. I didn't like the plot. It was such a typical zombie apocalypse novel, and that's not really what I look for in a zombie apocalypse novel. So I was not super thrilled with this. I did DNF it as well. After that is yet another DNF, and that is Black Blade Blues by J.A. Pitts. Again, this had some issues. It's following a blacksmith, and she's partially a blacksmith, partially a props master for like a terrible like D monster movie kind of thing. And I don't remember exactly all the details of the plot, but I did DNF it. There are a number of problems, but the main one for this one that tipped me over the edge is that it is a female character written by a male author, and you can tell there are just inconsistencies, and I'm like, that's not really how women at large are. And it just screamed inconsistent to me. So I did go, like, that was what tipped me over the edge. So I did go ahead and put it back down. I don't remember exactly where I DNF'd that one. And then after that is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This follows a group of teenagers who are naturally good at certain skills that make them great at solving cold cases. And yes, it's completely ridiculous. It's a YA novel. It's completely ridiculous. Jennifer Lynn Barnes is really fun, ridiculous kind of novels. This is a series with 4 books in it. I read this one and I liked it. There were some things that I didn't love, but I was like, oh, it's a series, I'm sure it'll work out. It didn't. I liked the second book less. I liked the third book even less. And I actually DNF'd the 4th book. So I wish it had been better. It was a disappointment, and that I love her ridiculousness, and in this one it just wasn't, I didn't quite gel with it. And then next up we have The Lazarus Machine by Paul Crilly. This is a steampunk novel. The main characters are searching for their missing parents. There's some Sherlock Holmes in there. I don't remember all of the details. I did not love this book. It was like a 2 to 3 star kind of book, which is generally not good enough that I'm going to want to reread it. And again, if I don't want to reread it, that says something, because I'm a habitual rereader, and if I don't even want to reread it, I probably shouldn't have it on my shelf. So I did not love this one. It is part of a duology. The second book is even worse than this one. So I was just like, I should just get rid of it. And so I am. After that, I do have, I have Pivot Point and Split Second by Casey West. Now this, I have not read Split Second. They're in the same series, in case you couldn't tell by the matching covers. But Pivot Point I did actually read. And this is a really interesting book. It follows a teen who has the ability to look into the future, but very specifically in that, for example, if she has to make a choice, she can look at the timeline for if she chooses one way, and she can look at the timeline of if she chooses a different way and compare and contrast, and then kind of decide what she wants to do. And this book is where her parents get a divorce, and so she has to choose which parent she's going to live with, because I think they're going to be a little bit far away from each other. And so she's looking into the future for each choice and seeing which one is the right one. And so we're actually going back and forth chapters, and like, what if she chose her mom, to a chapter of if she chose her dad, to back to mom, back to, and it was very, very interesting. I actually really liked the idea of it. I thought the execution was very interesting. And it was good. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't terrible. It is a YA novel, so just a heads up. But it also felt somewhat gimmicky. Like, you know what I mean? Not terrible. Just, she didn't quite pull it off. And so then when I picked up book 2, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And then I realized, why did I do this? Like, I didn't love the gimmick in this book, so I'm not real excited about reading it again in the second book. I actually thought that the first book was pretty well contained. I mean, they definitely left it open for a second book. I don't know if there was always the plan to have a second book, but I thought it wrapped up well enough that I was content with this as a story. So I don't know why I picked up book 2, and so now it's just leaving. Again, this is not a book that I have any intention of rereading. It was good. It wasn't good enough for that. If you are interested, it is, like I said, it's a good book. It's not a bad book. If you're interested in Pivot Point by Casey West, give it a shot and see what you think. After that, I do have a book that I have actually never read, and I haven't even given a shot, and that is The Bone Dolls Twin by Lynn Flueling. And this is a old school fantasy, and it is high fantasy in that it's in an alternate world. And in this one, I don't remember which gender, but like, it's basically, if you're a specific, I think it's male, if you're a male that is in that has royal blood, you are killed. And so there is a male child that is born, and he is hidden away, and actually his body changed so that he thinks he's female. And so when we meet him or her, I'm not really sure how to talk about that, it's a female body. Or if I'm wrong on the gender, just switch them. Either way, it is somebody who was born as one sex and changed to believe that they are the other sex. And I thought about that, and this is written in 2001, almost 20 years ago. Fantasy is sometimes really not great with queer rep and being sensitive to queer issues. And so I looked it up on Goodreads, and yes, it is not good on trans issues. And I kind of knew that, and I always put off reading this book. I've had it since probably 2009, I think. So there's a reason I haven't picked it up, and it's because I've always been a little bit wary of the how trans issues are dealt with, and from the reviews, it's not dealt with well. So I'm just never ever going to read this book. So it's going to leave my house. After that, I do have a duology from Patricia Briggs, and that is Raven's Shadow and Raven's Strike. This is another series where I actually read the first book and I don't remember anything about it, but I went to go back and reread it, and I looked at the description and I realized that it sounds a lot like Romani culture, and that is typically done very poorly. And so I went on to Goodreads to see what people said about it, and yes, it seems to be that she took from this culture a lot of negative stereotypes and kind of ran with it. And then also just looking at the description of what it was, I was just like, this is not, it's not my deal. This is not what I read anymore. And so I'm just going to go ahead and let them go. And then lastly, we have 2 books that my son picked out, and that is Drop Dead Gorgeous by Elizabeth Lenhard, a Rotten Apple book, and then Misfortune by Brandy Doherty, a Poison Apple book. I don't actually know anything about these other than they are elementary school books that my son found at the little library down the street, and he just never read them. He thought that they looked interesting, but like, this one has some zombies in it. This one seems to have some, a curse and stuff. There's some magic. It looks interesting. I'm not a really big elementary school book reader, so I'm not interested in actually reading them. And so since he's not going to read them, we're just going to let him go. But that is it, you guys. Those are the books that I will be leaving my house hopefully very soon. And so, yeah. Have you guys read any of these books? Please let me know. And that's all I got. So until next time, guys, have happy reading, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.